Hey everyone. Yeah, I'm sick and fucking tired of hearing these two terms tossed around. White privilege and colonialism. Especially with Canada Day, Canada 150 coming up. Whether it's the LGBT or the fucking indigenous or like the First Nations, I should say. Or, the socialists, the feminists. It's all about, patriarchy, white male patriarchy, white privilege, white privilege, white privilege. Fuck. I am so fucking tired of hearing that term tossed around. That is such a fucking baseless, fucking useless fucking term. White privilege. That's to suggest, how racist can you get, first of all? Even I've been presented with people who said I have white privilege. Obviously, they have no idea to my character, to my history, to my family tree. First of all, I'm Irish and Scottish. Right? Which means my history is based on a lot of oppression by a lot of authoritarians in many aspects from old world Europe and even brought into this modern country of Canada or even some of my counterparts to the southern US. But yeah, we were the original slaves for a lot of the Europeans and a lot of fucking other central planning dictators or monarchs in the past. So to suggest that someone like myself is privilege because of the color of my skin is white? That is fuck. First of all, even fuck the history of the people that the ancestors that I am derived from. Just in my own personal life, I was born in abstract poverty, raised in abstract poverty. My mother and father were so fucking poor. We used to, you know how I used to make toast as a kid? We were lucky enough to be able to fucking buy an old piece of shit used stove and fold a coat hanger enough to stick your toast over top of the stove, and that's how you made your toast. And if I wanted to use the washroom and a toilet when I was visiting my dad after my mom and father separated, I had to go to an outhouse, outside, way back behind his little tiny puny ass 3-room shack. They didn't have any running water. If you wanted to do the dishes, you actually had to go across the lane and pump it, right, from a well pump, bring your bucket back over, fill it up in the teapot, heat it up, pour it into the sink with your shopper, right? You were lucky to even have a sink. A lot of the times it might have been just a little wash basin. So to fucking suggest that I come from any kind of privilege, really? Like I said, it means you just have no idea as to the history of not just me, my family, but the historical precedent of what the Irish have had to suffer for so many generations. But you don't hear Irish out there you don't see no Irish, we need help from the oppression of the fucking ruling class of the British monarchs and all. No. Hey, the Irish people don't have the victim mentality. They're much more ambitious, have much more resolve and more character to fucking look at themselves as a bunch of victims. They better themselves by saying, hey, I'm not a victim. I'm willing to stand up in spite of any oppression that I personally may have suffered or the people of my family or the story or the history or the ancestry that I come from, the oppression that they might have suffered. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Even if my great-great-great-grandfather might have been oppressed by an English lord at some stage of the game. Oh, do I feel like a victim today because that happened? So I'm an automatic victim because of historical precedent? What a fucking bullshit concept. What a bullshit premise. And these fucking Aboriginal people, you're just keeping your own people down is what you're doing. This identity politics and victim culture is keeping your people down. And it's actually helping the central planners tremendously because that's how they can dominate and control you easily by destroying your psychology, destroying your self-worth, your self-respect. Once they've done that, then you're easy to steamroll over, and control and dominate. People like myself are trying to help raise and elevate you. And no, I don't feel any fucking white guilt because I fucking bought my property, my 3 acres that I paid for back in New Brunswick, that I bought off someone else, that actually cultivated that land. It wasn't no fucking Aboriginal's fucking land. And you fuckers, that's another thing. Just because you're an Aboriginal or someone they claim First Nation, you don't get to lay claim. I don't care what tribe you come from. You don't get to lay claim to an entire country or continent. This fucking bullshit pretense that, the colonials stole all this land from, they didn't own it. The colonial fucks don't own it either. That's the thing. I'm not defending colonialism, and I'm not defending any First Nations from their claim of owning the land either. If you fucking work the land and you need it to survive and thrive, and you build your home on it, and if you do something with land, that is your land. But that doesn't mean just because maybe your grandfather or great grandfather laid claim and said, "Hey, I'm a tribal leader, I'm the chief, so I'm laying claim to this entire 1,000,000 acres." That's fucking bullshit. Just like the King of England don't get to lay claim to 1,000,000 acres, neither does your First Nation ancestors. Nobody has any legitimate claim to an entire country, continent, or geographical landmass, right? Fuck this bullshit. Fuck this divide and conquer bullshit, right? No. Property rights exist not just in nature. That's the thing. You people are supposed to build nature, right? Animals understand that they are entitled to property. How do you think they survive and thrive if they didn't have property and a place to flourish and forage for their food, or have place to set up shelter? So even animals or piss on the corner of the lot, right? Mark their scent. Even animals understand, yeah, I can lay claim to some territory, but I don't get no animals or no human beings would ever have any fucking foolish pretense of, but I get to claim it all. It's all mine. Right. But apparently these fucking Aboriginal fucks, even 150 years later, they're unwilling to even start talking principally. They're just all about, hey, you fuckers, you government fucks tried it, so now we're going to try it. It's all ours. Oh, you're saying it's all yours? Well, we're saying it's all ours. Whereas can libertarians like myself say, no, it's not all yours, not all yours. Matter of fact, little bit can be yours, 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 little bit can be yours. But you got to make sure you're doing something with it. You got to make sure you accumulated or come into that land through the proper means, through the proper measures. Not by force, not by conquering any particular person or infringing on other people's private property or their rights or their established rights or their natural rights. So, yeah. Fuck all this bullshit with this goddamn divide and conquer with the First Nations people. You don't own this country. Your ancestors didn't own this country. The colonial fucks back in the day, the ones that wrote up the social contract, the ones that wrote up the Constitution, none of them own this country. None of you fucking people, none of your ancestors have any legitimate claim or authority over this country that's called, that has been deemed and called Canada. Right? So I have no guilt for having a house to raise my children, to raise my family in, and a couple acres in the backyard to, grow and cultivate some fruits and vegetables if need be. Or to have an area to store my things and the fruits of my labor. Of course I don't feel any guilt for that, nor should anyone else. It's a Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.